All right, I'm gonna hit this sponsor music, and
let's pay the bills.
We're gonna go. Yeah, we get paid nothing for this. What are you talking about?
Who does?
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
Welcome back, class. On today's episode, we are joined by Megan from the Vigilante Vibes Podcast to review Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. All this and more in a Spider Sense and Sensibility, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man with the Vigilante Vibes Podcast, episode of The Fandalorians. Teachers by day, nerds by night.
That is the bell. Class is in session. Welcome to the Fandalorians Podcast. Teachers by day, nerds by night. Nerds who are very bad today at getting this thing together. Guys, we got to turn the ship around. Like, the pre-show has been terrible. We're doing terrible things. We're re-editing twice. None of this was my fault. McDonald has ruined this so far. McDonald, I got you. I will carry you to the finish line, I promise. We are I know something's coming later when he unmutes. We are the number one pop culture podcast by public school teachers. Every week, we bring the latest entertainment news, reviews, and lively debates with a fun teacher twist. Proud members of the Unfiltered Studios Podcasting Network and lifelong friendships, banter, good-natured trash talk. We're having a good time. You can email us at thefandaloriansmailbag@gmail.com, or you can text us at 631-494-3632. We get new listeners all the time, especially when we have a guest. That's why we invite people over. Anyway, let me introduce ourselves, though. My name is Mr. Richardson, fourth grade teacher, and the man who had his own proud dad moment, Mr. G, Mr. McDonald. Megan's here. Bryn had a basketball game. Her team in seventh grade did not have a single win. Eighth grade, they have not had a single win. You know, not a lot of good girls are good at the dribbling. They're figuring out as they go along, but they finally had a game yesterday. They were up by 5 with a minute and a half remaining, and their best player fouled out. The one who's the best dribbler, best shooter, like she's really much carries the team. My daughter comes down, gets fouled, makes the basket, gets an and one, and she doesn't normally do that. The crowd's cheering. I'm freaking out, but then the other team goes back and hits a 3. So now they're right back in it. It's getting close, and then Bryn pulls up for a jumper above, like right outside the step at the top of the circle. Step behind the free throw line, nails it, rebounds, couple of steals. She pretty much pulls a Kobe. I'm very proud right now, guys. And my other co-teacher, New York City public school teacher, and the man who had to relearn algebra, Mr. McDonald. I love where this is going already.
Well, I mean, because you know how you have a proud dad moment. I guess I have the kind of the opposite of, I don't know. No, I'm still proud of him, but he is taking algebra and has a Regents exam at the end. And so now like grades count. And so to help him with algebra, I have to relearn algebra. And by relearn, I'm just Googling everything and kind of not telling him.
Yeah.
It happens.
Thankfully.
Listen, I went through this with my kids. We watched a lot of Khan Academy videos to figure stuff out.
And my other co-teacher, something, a book, Mr. G. All right, what are you reading?
What am
Mr.
I
G's
reading?
book club corner.
Can we just call it Charlie's like book corner?
And that's what we need to call it. Why
we need to get it sponsored by like Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. I'm listening to the third book in the Imperium series, Onyx Storm, where book 1 was The Fourth Wing, book 2 was The Iron Flame, and this book just came out.
How far are you into it?
Like halfway. I'm halfway through it. It was a slow start. I was a little like, it's like the same old. But it picked up around chapter 20 into the plot of this story and where it's going. And one of the things I wanted to say about this story that I thought was crazy was that I went to go borrow it on my library app. And it normally will say there's a wait, there's this many weeks, that many weeks. This one said several months.
Wow.
And
Really?
I was like
It's very
400,
popular.
437th online. That was like on a Monday. Tuesday afternoon, my phone dinged. The book is available. I'm like, what?
Listen, a lot
For
of people
whatever,
are reading them that day.
I don't know what happened, but I went from 437th in line to first in line. I got the book, and now I'm listening, and I'm halfway
Well,
through.
it's because when you're a major podcaster like we are, we get
That's what I
special
think.
favors.
Right.
That's what I think they know. I
Uh-huh.
get some privileges. They know. So
They were like, wait, this is that Mr. G?
exactly.
From the Fandalorians, get him his book right now.
Yep.
No, I said get him his book. Like, it was very aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
happens.
Charlie,
We
I've
name
read the
dropped
first
ourselves.
2, and I'm just waiting for my kind of schedule to open up because I'm still reading a book, but I'm at the point where I kind of don't want to finish the book, but I feel like I kind of have to.
You know what? I'm going to admit this. I'm with Huckleberry Finn, The Adventures of Huck Finn, because I want to listen to James, which is about the character in Huck Finn, but
Yeah.
I've never listened to Huck Finn. And I was like 70% through when this book became available. And I was just listening to the book so I can be like, hit it, marked and done on my Goodreads.
Right.
But I stopped listening to that so I can listen to this. But I don't want to go back to it because I find it very tedious.
Okay, well, Mark Twain isn't here taking shots at him. He's catching shots. Like, Mark
Yes.
Twain catching shots from beyond. I mean, that's not fair. Come on,
Catching
man.
strays from beyond the
I
grave.
know. I know. The man's passed away. My gosh. Terrible people. Joining us today, not a terrible person, the host of the Vigilante Vibes Podcast, Megan. How you
Hi.
doing?
Good. I'm glad to be here. I'm a big fan.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you stopping in today.
Of course. I was
And
really excited.
I know you love the Spider-Man, so it's going to be fun.
Yes, I really do.
We have a couple questions though before we get started. We have to test your geekdom, despite the fact that I know it's strong. But since we're teachers, we start there. Do you or did you have a favorite teacher growing up?
I did. His name was Mr. Kitchen. He was my 9th grade English teacher. He was in a rock band, and he seemed like the only teacher that ever really gave a crap about what happened to his students. So when he retired, he still visited once a week, every Friday, to hug his kids every weekend.
Really?
Mhm.
That's great. That is
Mr.
great.
Kitchen. That's
Yeah.
it's such a like a it's like a name that
Yeah.
kind of sticks in your head.
Yeah.
It does. Teachers by day, nerds by night. So what are you really nerdy about?
Definitely Marvel. That's my number one. It's always been my number one.
What's your favorite Marvel property? Or
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man?
Oh, that's
Well, you're in the right place.
Oh, you're the
That's why I'm
great
here.
When did you discover
is-
that Spider-Man was your favorite?
I
Yeah.
thought it was when I watched the Toby movies, but about a month ago, my mom sent me a picture of me as a 2-year-old dressed as Spider-Man. So I guess it's always been there in the back of my
It's-
mind.
You've been Spider-Man all along.
Yeah,
This is perfect.
Well, I will say it's the power of a cool costume.
it does things to you,
It
man.
is a great costume, especially when we see some of the other ones they did in this, which I thought were cool as well. But
Save
I
it.
liked
Save it.
What? Come on. You know what? I'm going to save it. I'm going to play the jingle, and then we're going to jump right into it because I want to talk about that too.
You guys have a lot of
What's this?
music.
It's a multimedia experience.
It is. It is.
It's
Wait
a
till your
building meeting, guys.
vibrating chair starts. It's like a
No.
4DX theater.
This is
Oh, so-
awesome.
yeah.
Please excuse the interruption. Please excuse the interruption. Please excuse the interruption. Can the Fandalorians please come down to the main office? The principal is ready to see you now. It's time for your post-observation review. The principal is ready to see you now. It's time for your post-observation review.
Did you like it, Megan? Did you?
That was
did you
solid.
like it?
Yeah, I
You
feel like
enjoyed
it's a little
it?
long. I was just listening to him. Like every time we play this one, I'm like, I gotta re-edit that to make it shorter.
I could definitely
I-
see it be more of a stinger than a tune.
Yeah.
Mm.
I kind of like our other
do.
box a little bit more than that one.
Listen, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man animated series that premiered on Disney Plus January 29th. The show offered a fresh take on Spider-Man's origin story, set in kind of an alternate timeline where Norman Osborn became Peter's mentor instead of Tony Stark. The first season consisted of 10 episodes. You had Peter Parker, you had Norman Osborn, you had Otto Octavius, Aunt May, Daredevil pulled up for an event. We had Lonnie Lincoln, Harry Osborn, Pearl and Nico from Runaways fame, Kingpin, voiced by Vincent D'Onofrio, and of course Daredevil voiced by Charlie Cox. I didn't say that before, and that drops soon as well. Other characters: Strange, Iron Man, Lizard, Chameleon, Scorpion, Rhino, Amadeus Cho, right? That's how I say it? Yeah.
Yes.
And Venom. Now, Rotten Tomato scores, you know my thing on Rotten Tomato scores. Not everyone votes, but anyway, 97% approval, even though beforehand everyone was going to hate it. But it turns out that a lot of people didn't. Metacritic score of 77. It was praised for Spider-Man's origin, the mix of teen drama, the action. There was some criticism about the character's depth, but we're going to dig into it. We're jumping right into it, guys. It's our post-observation review. If you're a teacher, here's what happens. You do a lesson, you're getting observed, and then when the lesson's over, you go to the principal's office and they give you a little observation review. They tell you about everything. And some of the questions they ask are these. In general, how successful was the lesson? In other words, what's your thoughts about this first season of the show?
I think it was very successful. I think it was written for the comic fans, the people who grew up with these comics.
As one of those comic fans, I'm going to say Megan's 1,000% right. I started reading Spider-Man comics when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. It's written for the fans. I didn't have much expectations about this. I've seen this origin 1,000 times, so I get a different take of the origin, which I wasn't expecting. And they kept me on the edge of my seat. I didn't know where they were going. And I always know where they're going because every other Spider-Man cartoon I've seen or any version of it, I know the story. I know the beats. That's guy going to be this guy. Why is Nico here? Like, that just blew my mind in the beginning. The whole thing with the spider, there's a lot there. I think it was very successful for people who are new to the character or people like me who've been around it forever. It was still new to me too.
I really enjoyed it. I remember when they first announced this as Spider-Man freshman year, and you're like, okay, I mean, I guess that's interesting. And that they quickly abandoned that, which I think was a good idea. And they gave us something that we've never seen before. Charlie?
What my thoughts are is that, was I entertained? 100%. I was very entertained. I watched every episode. I didn't get bored. One of my criticisms of the was it Batman cartoon? What was that new Batman cartoon one called?
Yeah, the Batman
Cape Crusader.
I forget what it's
called. The Cape Crusader.
Right.
Yeah, one of my criticisms of the Cape Crusader is that the episodes were kind of like boring after a while. It's like, oh, fight this guy, goes, deals with that one, fights the next bad guy, deals with that one, villain of the week. This one had a whole story from beginning to end, and it did not feel like that villain of the week. All the villains were tied. They were all tied together into the whole arc of the story. So I was very entertained. This is very successful.
All right, so this one we kind of narrow the focus a little bit. To what extent was your instructional delivery effective in this lesson? In other words, what did you really like most about this? For me, it was episode 7. It was Scorpion Rising, because much like X-Men 97, where in the first couple of episodes, every now and then you hear, let's say, a naughty word. They say a couple of things. You're like, oh, they're doing that in the cartoon. They're going to say this. A little violent, more violent than normal. All right. Adulting it up a little bit. I never saw a Spider-Man catch a bloody beating before. In any version of animation, in episode 7, Scorpion beat him down. Like, just punching him, the blood splattering. That's when I was like, oh, this has that. I mean, he didn't die like Gambit did, but, spoiler, sorry. There's an X-Men fan mad. That messed that up for everyone. But we're going to cut that out in post, guys. Megan's like, no, I didn't know.
I did know, but you didn't have to bring up episode 5.
Watching him get beat down that way, that really cemented it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. How's he going to get out of this? I don't really know what's going to... I have no reference from all the years of comics. And not knowing what's going to happen was actually exciting for me as a Spider-Man fan, because that doesn't happen often, Charlie.
Mate, what I liked was that the story was easy to follow. I'm not the hugest depth of comic book fandom, if you will, but I enjoy the episodes. I've actually watched a lot of Spider-Man growing up as a kid. All those Spider-Man cartoons, I watched them. But what I really liked the most about this was that it was 10 episodes, right? 10?
Yeah.
8. It was a tight 10 episodes that followed a story arc, much like a comic series would. That's how I enjoyed it. Between the music, the villains that they chose, and where the story kind of took place, I thought was great choices.
Well, I mean, what's so interesting about this to me is what I really liked about it is they gave you enough of Spider-Man of what you wanted, but it was just different enough. I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Richardson here because there's an old saying, as a wily history teacher, I should say, they always say that history repeats itself. I wouldn't necessarily call it that way. I always like to say that history rhymes. And so, you see kind of the same things over and over again. But what was so good about this is it gave you what you thought was going to happen and then just twisted it a little bit. Like when they show up, when they do the beat for beat scene from Captain America Civil War with Peter Parker, and he shows up and you think it's going to be Tony Stark, and it's not Tony Stark. It's what's his face? Yeah. And
Osborn, yeah.
And from there, you're like, I see what they're doing here. This is super interesting. And they do that just enough. And, they certainly change enough things, like Harry finds out really quickly, and then Harry accidentally tells Nico. And so before you know it, everybody knows he's Spider-Man. And so I really enjoyed the way they did it. I know, Charlie, this is more your forte. I really, really enjoyed the animation style, how they made it look like a comic book.
Megan, what did you really like most about it?
I liked two things. I liked that they brought in such underrated deep cut of characters. Like a casual MCU watcher will not know who Amadeus Cho is, or who Peter Parker's best friend is, or who the random Luna Snow references. They don't know who these people are, and it's opening up to them wanting to read about these characters. So it's bringing in more comic book readers, which is amazing. The other thing I loved that Norman Osborn is black because his hair makes sense now. And it's perfect.
You know what, Megan? I don't like to trip on later categories, but you have a category called "What Would You Steal from the Set?" I need the waves. Norman Osborn's wave game is strong. I can't get there with my waves, but I've been trying. I got the Scully cap.
Hold on.
His waves are great. I had to step on it, but that's
Norman Osborn's has had waves since 1963. So
yeah,
is it Jack Kirby who is really the trendsetter here?
It's just you don't see white people with waves too often. That's what I'm saying. It was always
I don't think you saw him then either. Like what was he getting at? What was he trying to start a trend? Did he want this to happen? He wanted to be the one to start it.
All right, what would you do differently? You got to teach this lesson again to the same group of students. If anything, would you change it up? I know Mr. McDonald always does. He's going to tell me something, and I'm going to disagree with it. It's going to be fun. Let's watch.
There's not much to really disagree with. My biggest problem is his first costume is awful. And I dislike it very, very, very much.
But think about the first costume from the Tobey Maguire movie when he went to be a wrestler. It's the same thing. It's very appropriate for what a kid would put together. Right. He got a hockey jersey.
Yeah.
He had that.
Then you know what? Get him out of that uniform faster. Get him out of that costume faster. He spent way too much time with that uniform in the show. I'm like, all right, come on, give me something else.
Who has costume money as a high school kid who's living off his aunt whose parents died? This kid just went into his closet and pulled everything red and blue and put it on. Not everyone has costumes, Patrick.
Fair enough.
No, that's a great point. Agree with McDonald only because I feel bad that everyone disagreed with him. No.
Oh, so you're zagging on your own zag?
I mean, you're my best friend for like 40 years. I can't let you go out here by yourself. I'm just gonna be the costume stinks.
Do you think they should have made it clearer that it was a multiversal, not MCU Spider-Man?
No, I like I was surprised. It's very rare to get surprised. Like I kind of had forgotten that they switched from the prequel to the Holland Spider-Man. I kind of forgot, which again, smart move, right? Because you're completely pigeonholed into something for seasons. It wouldn't really work. Once that spider came through the portal, that's when I think I'd text you guys who's watching this because I wasn't expecting that.
I have a statement to make, and deciding on whether or not it belongs here or if it belongs on
Or a
this.
nitpick.
This didn't make sense to me.
I
But
don't have any-
this
Go
is
ahead.
what I'm gonna say. It creates a whole re-argument of the Terminator and Skynet.
I wanted to say that. That's what I had down. For
That's
things that make sense. Oh no, that was my question at the end of the show. The whole Terminator thing. Yes.
That's like as
Which
soon
is
as that whole happened, I was like, "Oh, this is Skynet all over again."
Oh,
Like-
the time travel. I do love it.
But then that Peter Parker is stuck in an infinite loop. And it bothers me that we're going to have this discussion about this infinite loop and Skynet and how could it become Peter Parker if Peter
It
Parker
took
was
the
the
blood
reason
from
that
him,
I just
The chicken and the egg. I thought the same
Yeah.
thing when it happened. And that was my question at the end. Like, do we have to rethink Terminator? Like, what do we do?
it created its own
Aaron Connor.
paradox that I hate to talk about. That's all.
Megan, would you switch anything up?
I would have slowed down Tombstone's origin because I feel like they jumped really quickly from straight A student, football jock, the man on campus to the next episode. He's like, I'm Tombstone. It was very quick, and he went into the gang for his brother, and then that was the last bit of him we saw because he was off the sports team. He was on academic leave. He didn't even go to school, and now at the end, he's the leader of a gang. It just went really, really quick for me.
I would have slowed it down a little. I know they wanted to get him a certain place by the end because they were enough, and maybe it was the writing, there were enough outs where he could have got out of the gangs that he stayed, which just didn't, it wasn't enough. I don't know if they earned him staying all the way through. But I get it with the brother, and I get he was kind of reluctantly doing a few things. But then it was like he saved the day, and all of a sudden he found his new quote unquote football team, and then he didn't want to leave them. It was tough though. I agree. That one was kind of right.
Also, you look at it, he was doing football so he could get a scholarship to pay bills for his family. And then he
Yes.
gave up so quick on that. Like within the next episode, he's like, family doesn't need money. I'm
Well,
just gonna throw all this away.
If you want to make money, you know how to do that. You work for like a mafia guy, and that's kind of what he did. That was his.
But he is the mafia guy at the end, and he's not rich.
Yeah.
Not yet.
No, but
Not
here's the
yet.
thing. I assumed that he was gonna want a cut of his NFL money. Basically, I felt it was going like, okay, you keep doing the sports because if I'm not a villain, but let's say once upon a time I wasn't always a teacher. Let's just say this: if I was in that situation, you go do the football. You're gonna get a scholarship. This is a gravy train. We're gonna keep your brother unless you do this, and maybe take a sack or something like that. I thought it was gonna be one of those things, and not join the gang. And I know he becomes Tombstone, so I assume he'd be in the wrong place, wrong time. I would have liked that kind of thing where they're trying to manipulate scores and make money that way, and take advantage of this kid who's going to be rich. Instead, he could have tried to do both or offer them a percentage. Like, listen, I'll give you 10% because he knows he has money coming. It just, it was tough. I like the attempt though. I like to try to show that journey. So once again, Spider-Man's going to be facing the villain that he's completely connected to and was actually a friend with.
Yeah.
All right, heading to the teacher's lounge. Have you ever been in the teacher's lounge before? A lot of crazy conversations going on around there. I was in one today, guys. Today at my job, I was in the teacher's lounge. I know. I'm there every day, though. There's snacks. People leave snacks. All right, what was their senior quote? Best line or line of the series? Was there a line or something that just jumped out to you? Megan, you have one?
Yeah, it's with great power comes great respect.
See, I wanted to go first because that was going to be mine.
I was so glad he called me because I was like, I know someone else is going to say it.
That was. But all right, go ahead. Explain why. I don't want to step on your toes.
Well, it's a play off the iconic line, but as soon as he said it, I thought I was going to flip a table. I was like, I've been waiting so long to hear it. And then you hit me with respect. And it was just such a villainous thing to do. It was such a Norman Osborn thing to do.
I love it. Mr. Don, do you want to add on to that? Sorry. I know
Yeah, because mine
Sorry,
is the exact same thing. And what I think what's so interesting about it is it really shows you the parallels that this show is doing. Also, just maybe this Peter may turn out a little bit differently. what happens when your mentor is not Iron Man? It's not Uncle Ben. It's kind of a bad guy. Is this going to fundamentally change who Spider-Man will become in this TV show? And so I thought it opened up a world of possibilities. And so I thought it was very, very, very clever.
Funniest moment, intentional or unintentional? What got you the ha-has, Mr. J?
I thought Spider-Man was pretty witty. He said some funny things, and I liked how what's his name? Cho?
Amadeus Cho.
Yes,
Amadeus Cho. He was like, he had his wit and his comments. I thought were very funny because he's very egotistical, very about himself, shining the light on himself. So a lot of his little one-liners in there, he threw a lot of little jabs that I thought were funny.
I laughed at the comments from Spider-Man. It's just the banter. It was really well done. It wasn't corny, it wasn't cheesy. It was quick, even in the moments where he's getting beat down. I love that part. Megan?
My answer was Amadeus Cho. And anytime he was on screen after this show, I was like, okay, we need a series of him now because he stole every scene.
He did. He chewed up scenery the whole time. McDonald?
So for me, I mean, I'm going to go for I'm pretty sure it was intentional, but also it was a little bit unintentional. It's all the terrible costumes that he tries on from Osborn, and it's all like the alternate ones you've ever seen if you've ever played the video games and things like that. And it's just, it reminded me a lot of The Incredibles with the cape and how it gets stuck. And it just cracked me up because it also was a little bit of, if Peter Parker, how old do you think he's supposed to be in this? Like 15?
Somewhere around
16.
there.
The three of us have older kids. So Megan, you'll get there. 15-year-olds, they can't make up their decision. They can't make up their minds. They can't make a decision. Peter Parker would be changing his costume every other day if he had all of Osborn's technology. So that was very realistic, but I thought it was hysterical, all the terrible costumes.
And then Norman Osborn being the typical dad trying to sell it. No, it's fine. No, your friends are gonna love it. No, it's fine.
Yeah,
and the kid's like, I don't want to wear this. No.
And he's like, I don't even have what the hornet's bite or what a hornet's sting or whatever. And
no, it's just
I'll wear the wings. I'll wear the wings
like,
one time.
It was very good, very good.
But I liked how it showed the relationship. It was very father and son between Norman and Peter, even more than Norman and his own son. And I'm sure that won't come back to bite them in the butt later in the series.
How come I can't find who voiced Amadeus Cho? Because every time I looked at him, he reminds me of the guy that looks like the emotional damage guy.
It's Alex Lee.
Okay, now I have to figure out
the
who
only
Alex
possible
Lee
answer is he's voiced by Amadeus Cho.
KSLE.
Oh, here he is. His IMDb has a whole bunch of stuff in it, but I don't recognize him. But it kind of looks like him.
All right, those Google slides were perfect. What part would you want to watch again and again, McDonald?
I loved any scene with Daredevil and Spider-Man. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
I thought that was nice. It was a nice touch, nice timing to have him in that zone. And then I loved how...
Do you think that was accidental or on purpose? Because I totally think it's accidental.
That the show would be coming out right after. I'm sure when they had it finished, they said we should finish it at this time. I mean, they got the voices. So they had to have planned it out.
It got pushed a lot, though. It was supposed to come out like early last year.
Yeah. And I like that despite the fact that he's Spider-Man and, it's Daredevil was just kind of knocking him around because
washing him. Yeah.
He's an adult. This is a little kid. I know he's stronger. He said some cold line like you're a kid. You think you're trying your best. This isn't the way. There's something along those lines. Like, come on, go sit down there. Drink your soda. It'll be okay, kid.
The grown-ups are talking. Yeah.
Rewatchable part for me. I said to you guys in the text, the final 10 minutes of the last episode, that was one I was like, guys, you gotta just have anyone finish this yet?
Yeah, because you're on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, because they decide to finish the show, and I'm watching the show, a little bar at the bottom of the screen because I had to pause it and take care of the 4-year-old here, and I'm looking around, and there's like 9 minutes left. I'm like, all right, we kind of wrapped the story up. Everything is going. What are we doing for the next 9, 8, 7 minutes, whatever it is? Then they proceed to drop cliffhanger after cliffhanger after cliffhanger to set the stage for the next season. in like a barrage of just wait, what? Wait, what? Wait, what? All through it. I've not seen that before. I even wrote them down. First, you have the Norman Osborn thing where he finds a symbiote. So the tease is to Venom or some version of that. They had the fact that Jenny's working with Daredevil as a superhero finesse, which is Megan talked about that's a deep cut.
Deep cut.
Like I remembered her, and I had to. I know this. I had to.
I didn't remember. I had to look her up.
They obviously teased Lonnie now running things, and you can see his hand where he's turning Tombstone gray. You know, you have the Harry Osborn starting his whole new venture. But then the big thing is obviously Peter's father, Richard Parker.
Wait. You're supposed to say spoiler alert.
The whole show, our entire episodes are spoilers. The whole thing is a spoiler.
All right. I'm saying
we do this every week. I'll say now.
Super duper spoiler.
That's fair. If you haven't seen it, stop listening for a little bit and then come back. I got nothing for you. If you're listening to the review of the episode,
like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, we spoiled everything. They should know. If they watch the show, they know how we get down. Listen, his father's alive and incarcerated. What did he do to get in jail? How's it going to impact Peter in the future? Does Peter even know he's in jail? Like, he hasn't brought it up yet. It's kind of weird. But just him alive and in prison, never seen this version before, and I have zero idea where they're going. I have a
theory why he's in prison that we'll get to later.
I like the tease, McDonald. You did a good job.
Right after this commercial break.
Megan, did I ask you to rewatch it? I'm sorry, I didn't, right?
No, it's fine.
Megan, do you ever rewatch? Well, no, it's okay. No, you're my friend now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. It was touch and go during the senior quote segment, but I feel like you've made it. Congratulations. Charlie, you're not my friend anymore. I only have room for two.
I feel like Peter Parker becoming an Avenger. This is amazing. So I would probably Daredevil and Finesse. I liked seeing Finesse. That makes me think, are we going to get Taskmaster at some point? Because that's her dad. Yeah, right. And then
that's her dad. Oh my god, I forgot that was her dad.
Yeah. And then I really like seeing Peter's dad behind bars because that makes me think we're going to get a spy story coming up. And also, where's his mom?
Yeah, it brought back Flash vibes.
Mm-hmm.
But then the spy story, and I remember, in some versions he was a spy, some versions he wasn't. And then I remember they came back as clones for a while. I just don't know. I like for once not knowing where anything's going.
I think it'll be a spy story. I really do.
Class, what's 5 times 5? Chris, my dad has a rash on his belly. Kids say this, believe it or not. Things that don't make sense.
So the whole thing with Spider-Man is like, keep your identity secret. Keep your identity secret. I feel everybody knows. So I'm like, all right. Well, now it's like it's not that it didn't make sense, but the whole fact that he's working for Oscorp, they're in his ear. Instead of having Jeeves, they have Harry Osborn. That to me was a very that didn't make sense. It's part of, like you said, it's a different thing. It's a different universe or a different timeline.
I would say these things and then think, okay, would my 16-year-old make this kind of stupid decision to be in a major building run by a multimillionaire, knowing the technology you have, and then change in the middle of a hallway and not think there's a camera? Yes, my teenagers would be dumb enough to do that. They would completely do it and be like, oh, there's a camera here. I can see it. Maybe not Hayden, but the other two kids would 100% do that.
I have a New York City student explanation for that.
Talk to us.
In my school, there's only 2 places where there are not cameras. One is the bathroom. The second one is the stairwell.
That's so weird. They actually had that problem in our school, and then it was lots of problems, and then they added a security camera.
Right, but I just think that's kind of a New York City thing. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but me as a city teacher went, yeah, okay, he probably expects there not to be cameras in the stairwell.
Yeah, but he's in like a major. It wasn't not in a school. He's in the
but remember, he is a dumb kid.
Oz has his own phone. He is a dumb kid.
He's in fight or flight mode. He's not thinking about a camera. He's thinking to get to where he can help people first. He's not thinking about that.
Sure. I agree with Megan there too. I'm gonna take Megan's side because she's the guest.
Because he's my
also
friend.
A dumb teenager. I know. He's also a crazy teenager. Oh, and then teenagers spilling secrets are not supposed to spill. That Harry thing, I'm like, yeah, he'll do it. Hey, do you know what he does? Like, dude, we just said it's a secret. Yeah, but she's your friend. I didn't tell her. I know adults who do that too, so that's fair. Things that didn't make sense, McDonald.
I have been going up and down about this. Things that I guess it doesn't make sense to me. Do you guys like the theme song?
Yeah.
I do.
My problem is I like the '90s theme song much better. That's that's the theme song I want to hear, but I'm not hearing. So it's not bad. I like the music in it. I just like that version of the Spider-Man better.
I like how it fits it fits the series, as in like, because what year do you think this show is taking place? Because the art seems very 1963. Well, Peter seems dressed very 1963.
Yeah, but it's current time.
It's right after Captain America Civil War, because they're on the search for Captain America during that time.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I'm just saying the style choice. It reminds me of like Batman the Animated Series kind of did this as well, where everyone's wearing suits like it's the 40s, but then they have like modern stuff, and so it's a small kind of nitpick.
Well, the opening intro is more about the comics references than it is about the current show.
But it takes when was that comics series? That was the 70s, the 60s?
63. When he's wearing the blue vest with the whole
I'm sorry, the song that they're remixing. That was like the 60s Spider-Man theme, right?
The first cartoon, the version which was 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
When they did,
and so,
but that one is always being remixed.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just interesting to me. I know why it's an homage to it, but I think Peter dresses like from the 60s, so it makes him kind of dorky, but he also is kind of dorky.
Yeah.
There's some theme songs that go with a character or a franchise that just can't be shifted. I think Spider-Man always has a variation of this. I think they'll be ridiculous if Superman, the new version, which it did have a little bit of that classic sign in it. Animated series X-Men, you got to chime that in. Even when you make the movie, you can't get rid of it. There's something, if they ever bring back G.I. Joe, they have to do that beat. Like, you can't pivot. There's certain things that might be stuck. Megan, anything that didn't make sense to you?
No, because like the comics, if there's something that doesn't make sense to me that like stands out, like why did they do that? It's coming back at some point. There's gonna be a full circle moment. So anything in the first season, I'm like, probably gonna be a second season thing.
Mr. G, can I go to the bathroom? What is the slowest part? Were there any moments you were kind of like, all right, I need to leave the room? I know I can pause TV.
The slowest for me were the misunderstandings that Peter Parker gets into because he's Spider-Man, but it's also because I've read so many comics and seen so many shows that you're like, oh yeah, I guess he has to go through this. So yeah, that like when he got invited to the party and Nico went because he went and then he didn't go, and you're just like, all right, I get it. Okay, whatever.
No, I thought the pacing, like I said, it was a nice 10 episodes. The pacing was good.
It was tight.
Followed an arc, and I liked it.
My thing that always drags for me is how long it takes them to figure out he's Spider-Man. I have no patience with that at all. Like, there's no way you wouldn't know. Like, I'm sorry, but think about it, guys. Everyone has Snapchat locations on all the time.
He would turn it off, right? Because my kid turns.
Well, he didn't know. He didn't know there was a camera.
Megan, there's this.
I wouldn't think.
Hold on. There's this random thing is when you give a kid a cell phone, like you'll experience this.
I don't want
you will look at that kid. You will say something to that kid, and they ignore you. And then, they're staring at their phone. Yeah. You text them something, they swipe it up, and they just ignored it completely. Because they were focused on whatever they were doing. So you can call them, you can text them. They can text you, and you can text them right back. And then if you follow up something, they ghosted you. I get ghosted by my own children all the time. So it happens.
Me too.
So I can understand how they don't know he's Spider-Man.
See, I was always thinking I could see it being trouble figuring it out. Because if you're not looking to find out who Spider-Man is, I would never assume that kid who has no, because Spider-Man appears to be outgoing and friendly. He's making jokes.
He's got no aura. He
must be popular. He's got to be the coolest person ever outside the mask. No, but that's, as in, if you see Spider-Man, he appears to be the coolest guy when you see him. So I would not assume that the 15-year-old in the back of the room, who
the kid who dresses
quiet,
like it's 1963,
somewhat socially awkward. I would never assume it's him. Now, if we have a moment where he wanders off, Spider-Man appears, okay, I would be like, all right, wait a minute. That's like twice this week. And why he was at this school. But in a vacuum, I don't know if I would immediately think that.
What's interesting is actually the movie Peter Parkers. It's easier to figure out that they are Peter Parker. Like if you remember Andrew Garfield, I really liked him as Spider-Man. But in the movie, they have him dunking from like 30 feet away. And you're like, are you telling me that nobody would remember this? I would have, if somebody, I remember there was a kid in my school who dunked, and I still talk about it today. And that's just a regular dunk.
Yeah, but also at the same time too, like another phenomena that I have with my own children, I don't know, Jimmy or Pat, if you could attest to this. I will ask my kids questions about other kids in their classes. They have no clue.
Yeah.
My son is a senior, and I don't think he knows more than 10 people's name. Who's in your class? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You don't know what the person's name is? He's like, no, I don't know what their name is.
Charlie, as someone who deals with high school kids professionally, it's the best thing I can ever say to any high school kid. I say it to my own kids is nobody cares about you. What do they really care about? Themselves.
Yeah.
And it's once you realize that, it's very freeing.
So maybe that's what's going on with Spider-Man. No one cares about
very possible
anyone else except themselves.
Megan's shaking her head like I would know he's Spider-Man from day one.
In the society that is now surrounded itself by serial killer documentaries and podcasts, yes, someone would find out, and it would get like wildfire in the age of TikTok. Someone would have taken a TikTok. It would have been everywhere. It would have.
Well, it was TikTok because they live streamed that mugging of Harry and the
same guy from the Shang-Chi movie, which was fantastic.
Clev.
Remember
Deep cut. But
yes,
Megan,
that was a good one too.
I mean, it's one of those things that if you remember in the comics, everybody thought that Flash Thompson was Spider-Man, not Peter Parker.
But what I'm saying is, in today's society,
which
the problem is there would be 18 different people who thought it was 18 different Spider-Man.
Dude, if you've ever seen one of those posts that said, find this guy on TikTok, within an hour, they found this random man by the look of his left ankle. I am telling you, they would have found it. They would have known.
So hold on, Megan, this brings up a bigger question. What are you doing on TikTok?
I have one for my podcast,
Megan, you found
but she sees them. I've seen them. I agree with you, Megan. I've seen those ones that'll be like, can someone please find this person?
Yeah.
And then sure enough, they're there. Yeah.
He did some terrible thing and said some horrible things, and then he did it on Monday, and by Thursday he lost his job, and rightly so in most cases.
Well, it's not always that. Sometimes it's like a misconnection love thing, and they find each other. Sometimes it's really nice, Mr. Richardson, James. I don't know how close of friends we are.
That sounds very Hallmarky.
You're on a really sad part of TikTok.
Must be. I've never seen a missed connection TikTok.
I honestly have not.
Now I gotta have to look for some.
There's
Megan,
some really
you text me a link of a fun one when you find it, and then we can all share. I'll share with everyone.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. All right, next season, maybe what do you want to see? We kind of been teased a lot.
I have a theory.
What do we got, McDonald?
All right. So Peter Parker's dad is in prison because he either got framed for it or actually did kill Uncle Ben.
Because they didn't tell us how Uncle Ben died.
Yeah.
It was mysterious. They didn't.
And May was pissed when she saw him.
Yeah. And, so there's got to be, they're going to give you something that you haven't kind of seen before.
I like that, McDonald. I like that.
But the only problem with my theory, is it kind of absolves Peter of the guilt of being responsible for Uncle Ben's death. And
I think you know what? At no point did they even mention Uncle Ben except one time.
Yeah,
he was feeling a little sad. So he went to Osborn, and then Osborn took his great responsibility and flipped it to great respect.
Well, Charlie, the one time they do mention it in the car, that was a super moving part. I was like, that's so nice.
But there was no guilt.
There was no guilt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean, you got to look at in the Tom Holland film. It was Aunt May's death that was a great power and responsibility moment. They just alluded to Uncle Ben, so it could be a different moment because he hasn't said the catchphrase and he had this little weird version from.
Is it going to be the death of Norman Osborn?
Oh no, that'd be terrible. But
not with those.
I want not with those waves. No, but we bring in the black man and we kill him too. Come on now, we can't. He can't. Why he got to be the villain?
No, so what
Anyway.
what are the themes we're going to see next season? I mean, they kind of set it all up, but what do you guys think?
We're gonna get Spider-Gwen. That's already been confirmed.
Confirmed, yes.
Yes, but I think the spider in the paradox that went and bit him, if we all noticed, it went in someone else's backpack right after it did. It's gonna go bite her.
Or is it going to be?
We never got back to that.
Or is it going to be bite Miles Morales as well?
I think it's gonna be Spider-Gwen. I think they're
Relative.
gonna. I don't think they're gonna bring in two big heavy players like that in one season.
Or they'll do like every season introduce a new Spidey.
Yeah.
The idea about his father killing Uncle Ben or being responsible for his death, I like it if he's, I guess, innocent, right? Because otherwise, okay, you're supposed to be there. Where's the story go from here?
What if his dad's a legit bad guy?
Well,
or
what
maybe
if
it's the spy thing.
We saw May said that they were struggling with money. What if Ben was like, "Hey, do you have any side jobs I can do? I gotta make ends meet." And he's like, "Yeah, I got you one." And that's what I think it's gonna be.
Something shady, and he got to be killed.
And he got mixed up.
Yeah, it was a bad idea. May said,
villain.
"Don't do it." Well, that would be cool.
That is
But-
good. That's good.
Yeah.
Or maybe they give him like Sandman's arc or something like that.
You know what? If he becomes a villain that he has to fight his own father, that would be
Darth Vader.
fantastic, 'cause I've never seen that
like
before.
that.
Yeah, that's a great. You know what, McDonald, you're out here doing work, doing the Lord's work today. It's your ideas. Probably makes up for the mistake you made earlier with Megan and almost getting her in trouble. This is great work. I'm proud of you, man. You earned this. All right, so star student in the class, favorite character. For me, I enjoyed everyone involved, but I did love Nico. I like the idea of like, hey, give him a best friend this time, because they normally don't give him a best friend from the jump. He meets people along the way. Harry sort of later on, that kind of thing. I love from the beginning. Nico's his best friend. The runaway tie is thick. We know all about that stuff. If you know that,
Because also,
magic,
the
everything.
last episode, she starts doing magic stuff, talking to her mom.
Yeah.
And that's the first time we see her doing magic.
Blood
No, it's
magic.
not.
It was blood magic.
Yeah.
The blood
She did
yeah.
magic. She did magic to drive the
with
car.
the car.
Yeah.
When she almost had
that's
that car
right.
accident.
And then there was a part where she almost got smushed or crushed or something like
But that just seemed like big magic. You're just
Well,
like,
it
But
wasn't
that was like
intentional.
summoning magic.
Yes,
She was
it
like
wasn't
creating
intentional.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to go star student. The character that I thought was most interesting was Norman Osborn. I mean, they could literally go in any direction with Norman Osborn. They could do the slow play and make him the mentor for the next 2 seasons. They might not even make him bad at all. Or first episode next season, they might make him bad right there. The possibilities are endless. I love the kind of father-son relationship between Peter and Norman. I love the impact that that's going to have on Harry. And so there's so many possible varieties just from this character choice that I think it's fascinating. So I just really like this version of Norman Osborn.
I was going to say Harry Osborn because we saw somewhat of an arc with him. You know, he's just the rich guy's kid, not really involved, but he's like, I want to help you be Spider-Man. I want to keep this secret. My dad did something bad, so I'm going to build from it and do something good. And like against all odds, he made Nico like him. So
I actually don't have a star student. This is like normally,
What?
Megan.
So
I
you
like
don't-
dole
everyone gets
out
a star,
stickers.
Charlie? Don't
left
you
and
dare.
right. Like I'm thinking about it. I'm like, there's no stand out. Okay, so if you're talking about like characters, like character-wise,
Yeah.
yes, I like the Norman Osborn. I like the Harry Osborn. I like the characters. There was nothing that, but no one like stood out to me where. Normally, this is very easy where I'm like, oh, this was, or like we talked about Wicked, like casting was like perfect. I got nothing. I don't know. I'm going to give myself a sticker because I watched it. I wasn't planning on watching it, and I watched it, and I enjoyed it.
You take that.
So I'm giving myself a sticker for completing the
take that
task.
sticker. You take that sticker.
I'm taking
We're
the sticker.
proud of you. All right. We're gonna jump to like the final two because I know Mr. G, you got to leave in a little bit.
You want to do? How about memorabilia?
No, it's
All
a
right,
cartoon. I
It's a
can't steal
cartoon.
it.
Yeah.
I was going to say Dr. Connor's arm, but go ahead.
That's a great point. I would take that. I want to take one of the first costumes and I would completely wear it. I just snuck that in.
100%.
I think it was really good. I think it's a great show.
Mhm.
That's why I'm jumping to the final letter grade. I'm going to jump in front of it, and I'm going to give it the dreaded A+ that Mr. McDonald hates when I give because you don't give pluses. And I'm very strict with my A's now. A's are usually reserved for something now that catching me off guard, low expectations, kind of shocking. I don't know where this is going. I mean, the ideas that we said today are really good. I'd like to see that. Well, that's a good idea too. He's fighting villains. Could be his father. It has to get an A. Expectation was low. Mr. G appears to like it. That's always a plus. A for me. Megan, what do you think? What would you give a letter grade for this?
I would say A+. I'm curious where it's going. I'm curious how they have the rights to use Spider-Gwen next season. There's a few people I was like, how are they able to do this at all? So I'm curious what that means, if that means something's happened behind the scenes.
Why wouldn't they have rights for it? What am I missing?
But I
Sony,
think,
Sony has the rights.
That's a Sony character.
Yeah.
but I believe is Spider-Gwen that's different than Ghost Spider, right?
She goes
They
by
call
Spider-Gwen in the Across the Spider-Verse, but Ghost Spider, Spider-Gwen, and Gwen Stacy are all into one.
Because
Sony.
they use Ghost Spider on their Disney Junior Spidey and Friends.
Because
that
in
character
her
is there.
Because in her alternate universe, she can't go by Spider-Gwen. That's her spider name, Ghost Spider. But like we just call her Spider-Gwen. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like, she
so
can't
could she be
see it.
Ghost Spider in this instead of being Spider-Gwen?
Look, the name
Probably.
pisses us all off. It makes no sense and it's confusing.
weird.
No one deserves 3 names, but I do love her though.
I'm gonna put that on the t-shirt. No one deserves 3 names.
They do.
Final grade McDonald.
Oh, well, according to the internet, it says it is unclear who actually has the rights because Sony has the rights to Gwen Stacy, but is Spider-Gwen a different character?
Because she was created after
after the deal
they
as
own
well.
the deal.
So yeah, unclear.
That makes sense.
But anyway, so look, I really, really, really enjoyed this. I'm gonna give it an A. I'm gonna give it a regular A. Never mind. I was gonna do A- just because I always want to leave a little room just in case season 2 blows the doors off. But also, I'm gonna put this in comparison to my expectations as well. You know, I came in here just thinking it should be a fun Spidey kind of show, and then you watch it and you're like, that was super fun. That was super interesting. I really like what they did with the characters, and so I'm going to give it an A.
Charles.
I had to agree. It right from the beginning, it didn't give us the same old Spider-Man. So that's what I liked about it. It was new, it was fresh, it felt fresh. So I liked it. A.
A's all around. See, we did a great job today. Megan, did you have a good time today?
I had a great time. It was so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. And let our fans know where we can find you, where they can listen to you.
You can find me everywhere by searching Vigilante Vibes Podcast or Vigilante Vibes Pod on most social media networks and anywhere you can listen to a podcast and YouTube.
Thank you again so much for joining us. We had a lot of fun. All right. So for Mr. G, for Mr. McDonald, for Megan, our special guest, I am Mr. Richardson. The buses are in the loop. It's time to get out of here, and we will talk to you next time.